hope you're having a good day today. This is the math lesson for Tuesday, and we're going to take a little bit of a jump, and we are moving to lesson 101. This is the next lesson in the book that has something to do with fractions, okay? So lesson 101 begins on page 659. Page 659. Okay, once you get to that page, take a look at that title there. And it's Rounding Mixed Numbers. And you're going to find this you're going to be good at this because you already know how to round, okay? You know how if we are rounding something to the nearest, a number to the nearest tens, let's say we're rounding the number 27, and we're going to round it to the nearest tens. We'd ask ourselves, is it closer to 20 or is it closer to 30? Well, we know that 7 is a lot closer to the 30 than back here at the 20, so 27 is closer to 30, so we round up to 30. Okay, you guys are really good at doing that. So we're going to be doing a very similar thing, except that we're rounding fractions. Okay, so this is what I want you to remember. I'm going to mark out, I think, most everything that we're doing here. A lot of the examples they're going to give to us are in inches. You can just be thinking, I gave you actually at the beginning, quite a ways earlier there, not quite the beginning, but sometime in the fall, I gave you a chart that had fraction bars on it, and would be helpful if you're confused on this. I'm just thinking of that right now. I don't have that with me, so I'll have to go to the school to find that, or I can find it online. You could find it online as fraction bars. But if you think of it as a bar, I'm gonna have this be 1 unit. And if this is the 1, this is 0 and this is 1, I want you to think how that's gonna be 1/2. I'm gonna have fourths in between here, so there's 1/4, there's 3/4. In between that, I have eighths. There's 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. Well, half is the same as 4/8, 5/8. That's the same as 6/8. Whoops. And there is 7/8. Okay. So we're just going to kind of keep that there to look at. There are a few that they're going to give us that are not perfect eighths. They give us some with sevenths and fifths and things. So we'll look at those. But you need to have a kind of a picture in your head of where the fractions are between 0 and between two whole numbers, a 0 and a 1. Okay? So we're going to round mixed numbers. So if they give us a number like 7 3/4, if we were supposed to round 7 3/4 to the nearest whole number, you simply have to ask yourself, is this number closer to 7 or 8? Okay? And I actually, you know what, I'm going to move where this is because my 3/4, there is the 7 3/4. If I'm going this inch or the number line between 7 and 8, I just wrote that crazy. Hold on. Let's try again. 7 3/4. There we go. Okay. Do you see how when I'm at 3/4, am I closer to the 7 or the 8? Clearly the 8, right? I'm much closer to the 8. So 7 3/4 would round up to 8. Does that make sense? Think about let's do another one. If I had 1 3/8, is that closer to 1 or to 2? Which one is it closer to? It's closer to the 1, huh? Because it's smaller than 1/2. I think one of the tricks that I always use when I'm doing these is to think about where 1/2 is here. Remember, if I am working with halves, with the 2 on the bottom, it's going to be 1/2. If I'm working with fourths, it's going to be 2/4. If it's 6, it's going to be 3/6. If it's eighths, it's going to be 4/8. I need to separate those so you can see where they are. That's the halfway mark. okay? If they're numbers that have an odd number on the bottom, if they're fractions with an odd number on the bottom, there's no even number that's going to be on the top, but you can still be thinking about that. If it was thirds, on the top would be 1.5, so you'd have to think if it's smaller or bigger than that, okay? Anyway, hopefully I didn't just confuse you with that. So they ask us, if we look at example 1, they give us lots of word problems with these for some reason. JD has 6 2/5 yard of rope. Estimate the length of rope that he had by rounding 6 2/5 to the nearest whole number. So we simply have to round 6 2/5, okay? 6 2/5. Well, if you think about where that's going to come on the on a fraction bar, there's 1/4. A fifth is about here, so 2/5 is going to be about right here. It's smaller than 1/2. Here's how I think of that in my head. What's half of 5? It's 2.5, right? Is that 2 smaller than the 2.5? Sure is. So that means this is smaller. So it's going to be closer to the 6 than to the 7, okay? So 6 2/5 rounds to 6, okay? So for this problem, it would be 6 yards. He has approximately 6 yards of rope, okay? Does that make sense to you? So you just have to think, like I said, I always think what would be half with this denominator would be 2.5. That we can't do that, but I'm thinking in my mind 2.5. 2/5 is smaller, so it has to be closer to the lower whole number than the higher whole number, okay? All right, let's try another one. They give you several problems that are using perimeter. And looking at your example 2, Kylie estimated the area, this one is with area, and then example 3 is perimeter. Example 2, Kylie estimated the area of this rectangle as 45 square inches. Did Kylie make a reasonable estimate? And you know, there are times when I do estimate area of something. I think about it with a room. If I need to estimate approximately flooring, we've talked about this before, buying carpet, and I'm trying to think, how much is this carpet going to cost me? I need to know approximately what my area of the room is, okay? So maybe that's not why Kylie did this, because this is in inches. Who knows why she did this? Okay. The rectangle is 8 7/8. So here's our rectangle, and it's 8 7/8 inches and long, and it's 5 1/4 inches tall. Okay, so we want to see if she was close in her estimate of the area at 45 square inches. Okay, so let's see, what whole number is 8 7/8 inches closer to? Is it closer to the 8 or the 9? It's closer to the 9 because 7/8 is way down here, closer to the bigger number. So this one here, we would estimate at 9 inches. 5 1/4. 1/4 is down here close down to this end. So would it be closer to the 5 or the 6? It's closer to the 5 because 1/4 is smaller than a half. So this one is going to be 5. So 5 times 9 is how we'd get area. Area equals the length times width, so 9 times 5. And we know that is 45, and this would be square inches. So did she do a reasonable estimate? She did. Reasonable estimate, 45 inches. Okay? And then on example 3, the perimeter of a rectangle picture frame that's 15 1/8 inches long and 10 3/4 inches wide. Okay? So it's 15 1/8 inches long, and it is 10 3/4 inches wide. Well, I need to get the perimeter, I'm going to need the estimated perimeter. Is 15 1/8 closer to 15 or to 16? I'm hoping that you said 15. Because remember, 1/8 is way down here by the lower number. So that one would be 15 inches. 10 3/4. 3/4 is way up here by the bigger number. So is that closer to 10 or 11? It's closer to 11. Hoping that's what you figured out. So to get my perimeter, I'm going to have 15 and 15, 11 and 11. So I can go 15 times 2, which is 30, plus 11 times 2, which is 22, equals 52 inches. And that's not square because that's not area. This is length. And yay, we got it right, 52 inches. Okay? So most of your assignment is just rounding fractions. You are going to be doing your lesson practice on page 661, A through I. So it's page 661, A through I, and then you're doing the lesson 101 worksheet, okay? And doesn't matter which you do first. Let's look at in your book, the lesson practice A. It says to round each of these numbers to the nearest whole number. A is 3 2/3. 3 2/3. Oh, and this is A. Okay. All right, 3 2/3. Is 2/3 bigger than 1/2? It is, isn't it? So you know you're going to round that toward the bigger number. So we're asking ourselves, is it closer to 3 or to 4? It would be closer to 4. So there's your answer, 4. Okay? And you're just going to be doing that on each one of them. I don't think that they give you any tricky ones that are like half exactly. They're all either bigger than 1/2 or smaller than 1/2. So you'll be able to figure those out. And then you do have a couple of problems with the area and perimeter. You have that in your on your worksheet, the last problem, and you have it on the last problem of your lesson practice. You also have on each of those, estimate the product of two fractions they give you and estimate the sum. Well, what does product mean? What operation you do if they say product? Hopefully you said multiplication. So you're gonna, when they say estimate it, you're going to round those to the nearest whole number and then multiply. And then the one that says sum, what do you do if it says sum, S-U-M, sum? You're gonna add, right? So you would round those fractions to the nearest whole number and then add them up. So it's pretty easy, okay? Remember, let me know if you have any questions and then turn these in to me either an email or on Jupiter. And I know you're gonna do super on this, okay? But let me know if you have any questions. See ya, bye.